And my story goes like this. I was at a workplace one time. The product leadership at the workplace had a great idea. They say, hey, why don't we come up with all these reusable features and we'll shove them into a platform and we'll have a platform team develop the platform. And I said, that's a great idea. We should have a platform team. We got a lot of reusable features. And they said, that's great. And then this platform team will be in charge of that feature, and that platform team will be in charge of that feature. And I said, wait. It sounds like you don't really understand what a platform is or what a platform team does. So why don't we slow down a second? And they're like, hang on, kid, get out of my office. And that was the end of that conversation. So it got me thinking, a platform team is a real thing. They maintain a platform, which also is a real thing. And I figured there's too much here to not bring to a podcast to talk about.
Yeah. So I think we should define what a platform is and what a platform team is, what they do, etc. Right. So let's just start with that.
All right. I knew that's how you wanted to start this podcast. So I brought the handy dandy Team Topologies book. I don't know if this is going to be backwards on the video or not. I'm not really sure. But I brought Team Topologies, Organizing Teams for Fast Flow by Manuel Pius and the other guy,
Matthew Skelton.
He won't return any of my angry tweets. So I'm going to start off with the Team Topologies definition of a platform team. Okay, it says the purpose of a platform team is to enable stream-aligned teams to deliver work with substantial autonomy. The stream-aligned team maintains full ownership of building, running, and fixing their application in production. The platform team provides internal services to reduce the cognitive load that would be required from stream-aligned teams to develop these underlying services. This definition of, quote, platform is aligned with Evan Bottcher's definition of a digital platform, which I will give to you right meow. A digital platform is a foundation of self-service APIs, tools, services, knowledge, and support which are arranged as a compelling internal product. Autonomous delivery teams can make use of the platform to deliver product features at a higher pace with reduced coordination. And the reference that they give in the book, if you want to go look it up yourself, it's Bottcher, What I Talk About When I Talk About Platforms. There's an article online, but that's the definition of a platform team. But I want to stop here before I go deeper into the book or deeper into more concepts, just to say I could completely understand how people misunderstand the purpose of a platform team, because in the Team Topologies way of thinking, you have this platform team which is working on this thing that's shared between all the teams, the thing that's meant to enable all the stream-aligned teams. I'm dropping more terminology from the book on you right now. The stream-aligned teams are what people normally think of as the feature teams or the fully formed, durable product teams, or like the Marty Kagan product teams, right? Those are stream-aligned teams.
Right.
So I think of stream-aligned teams as there's funding and streams of work and features that basically end-user customer value that is derived from what the stream-aligned teams produce.
Yeah, that's an interesting kind of take on it, because platform teams in and of themselves don't produce anything that is customer facing necessarily, right?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
If we're talking about what a platform team does, from the book, and just again from my experience, because I'm a salt and pepper, and then it's up to you to read the book and figure out which one's salt and which one's pepper. But from my experience, the platform team focuses on providing the platform as a product. That is their product. They probably have a product manager. They probably have a development team. They probably stay together for a long time, and that is their product. So the platform team is going to interface with all the rest of the stream-aligned teams to say, where are you going and what pieces can we take into our roadmap to make available to everyone that will ease, or maybe even not ease everyone's cognitive load, or maybe just propel us to the future faster. Could be either or, right? But for example, IDAM, SSO, whatever authentication you use, you'll call this particular piece of code that the platform team allows you to do, and then you don't have to worry about authentication.
Yeah, that's a good example, I think, because people can relate to that.
Other things for the platform team, you just heard me talk about self-serve, that there's an emphasis that everything is self-serve and easily usable. So self-serve, self-documented, or at least we don't put out features that people can't understand how to use by themselves.
Yeah, they should be able to consume everything without having that dependency backed on the team, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
A big goal of the team has to be reducing cognitive load. If what we're doing doesn't reduce cognitive load on the rest of the development teams, we're kind of missing the mark as a platform team. Right. Or we might be in one of those positions where we're really a stream-aligned team producing features, and now we're doing our stuff for end users, but then we're also doing a little bit of platform stuff, so we're actually increasing our own cognitive load. Maybe we'll get into that whole, like what happens when you're faking yourself out and you think you're a platform team, but you're really a stream-aligned team. Maybe we'll talk about that in a different section.
Yep.
And then there's a little bit of standardization. Like, again, you're talking to the people who did standardization is evil as a podcast, or weaponizing standardization. That was a podcast.
That's right.
But there is a bit of standardization here. I mean, if you can not put any thought into authentication or user management, user roles. When Ohm onboards, he has access to feature A, B, and C, but when Brian comes onto the platform, he only has access to A and B because he didn't pay for feature C. The point is, some other team can create that whole role-based access mechanism,
right?
And now you don't have to worry about it. All you do is you plug in your code to this RBAC system, and then it's all taken care of for you. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah, so there's this element of what the platform team produces being reusable by other teams.
And then, of course, just like a normal product team, this platform team would be looking to continuously improve the experience of the platform.
But it is their product. So, I mean, it follows the product lifecycle. Right?
There are some effective behaviors of platform teams that are outlined in the book that are very good. And also, we, again, like I said in the opening, we rolled back to the article that this section references titled, What I Talk About When I Talk About Platforms. And there's some good call-outs in this one about what makes a platform compelling that are almost near the end of the document. But to quote from the book, let's start with the good behaviors of a platform team from the book. The mission of a platform team is to provide the underlying internal services required for streamlined teams to deliver higher level services or functionalities, thus reducing their cognitive load. We already talked about that. Also see our podcast on cognitive load. And it says, what kinds of behaviors or outcomes do we expect to see in an effective platform team? A platform team uses strong collaboration with streamlined teams to understand their needs.
Well, that's fantastic because, I mean, look, if that didn't happen, I would say all bets are off, right? Streamlined teams have specific needs. If they aren't understood by the platform team, how can they deliver a product that satisfies streamlined teams?
Well, let me start right away with the first thing that people might be thinking about when they're thinking about platform team. They'll say, well, these are all the people that are spinning up my environments when I created a ticket in my ALM, or when I create a ticket and Jira Service Management, that hey, go create an environment for this, or go create a whatever, or go DevOps team, for example, DevOps when they're a completely separate team. Let me spin up a ticket to send this release to the next environment.
Right. So those are not platform teams.
Those are not platform.
Yeah.
A strong collaboration with streamlined teams. You don't need a strong collaboration with any team to just, hey, when's the next ticket coming in? You're working on the burger line. And you're just going to take the next ticket. You're going to do exactly what it says. Make the burger in a certain number of minutes. You're probably incented by the number of tickets or the amount of time it takes. That is not a platform team.
Nope, that's right. Yeah, there is no product there, right? First of all, those skills, for the most part, should be available on the streamlined team. So they don't have to go to another team, for example, DevOps.
Yeah.
Right? Those skills should be present on the team.
So his second point in the book, although they should be numbered, Manuel Pius and the other guy.
Skeleton.
They should be numbered. A platform team relies on fast prototyping techniques and involves streamlined team members for fast feedback on what works and what does not. So a lot of people might read this bullet point and say, like, well, I don't quite understand exactly what you're implying with that bullet point. I know exactly what, coming from a environment where we worked on mobile applications. A lot of the time, when you implement a new feature on a mobile application, you have to create a corresponding API endpoint or extend an existing endpoint or something like that. There is server-side work that has to be done to extend mobile functionality. To me, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Hey, we'll mock up the endpoint and we'll mock up the response, and it won't be whatever you send to the API, it will send you back 200 success.
Always.
Which is actually some APIs in production. Yeah.
201.
But yeah, mocking up the response APIs, just because you can just copy the shell of an API, throw it out there under whatever endpoint name you want, throw it into your dev environment and point your mobile devices at it just to test functionality. That's very fast. You're talking about setting it up, deploying it, testing it on your phone, all in less than a day.
Easily,
yes.
I agree. And the other point is, if you're developing a substantive API, you don't necessarily have to wait till you get it all done, right? You can just simply say, here's the shell, and just develop a little bit and just mock out the rest. Stub it out, right? Put a stub in there. And then over time, you can develop more and more of it and reduce the number of stubs.
If I had a nickel for every time that we stubbed out a response to stub that response because like the underlying table structure that was going to return whatever
wasn't even ready.
Didn't even exist.
Yeah.
I'd have a bunch of nickels. So the next item, halfway through, a platform team has a strong focus on usability and reliability for the services, treating the platform as a product, and regularly assesses if the services are still fit for purpose and usable. So they're looking at all the endpoints they have. Again, sticking with mobile application, you have a library of APIs and endpoints, self-documenting through Swagger or whatever. They're constantly looking at the endpoints. They're constantly looking at metrics, looking at what's being used. They're looking to simplify what's there. I mean, you do that when you have strong product management at the heart of what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that is also just basically improving it. So getting rid of some tech debt in there. I mean, really, we're talking about treating the whole thing as a product. That's what we're talking about, improving it over time.
Platform team leads by example, using the services they provide internally when applicable, partnering with streamlined teams and enabling teams, and consuming lower-level platforms owned by other platform teams whenever possible. That's interesting.
That is hard in real life, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is interesting that they actually spell it out like that. I'm glad that they do that.
Yes. So you've built a lower-level platform, or in my experience, more likely you've built a lower-level platformable feature. You built something that could be a platform feature.
Yeah.
And we're saying, hey, that should join the platform.
Put it back over here. Yeah, exactly.
If I ever had any of the authors of this book on the podcast, I would specifically ask them about this bullet point because it could be the topic of the whole podcast by itself. The politics of taking
how do you go about doing that? Exactly. Yeah, that's what I meant. It's hard in practice because you're essentially saying to somebody, hey, give me that work because it doesn't belong to you. It belongs over here.
Right.
And then, of course, like you said, politics and all the...
Yeah, this is a really interesting discussion because if you are working in a 12, 15, 20 person company, everyone will understand, hey, your team did something that lets us win. Merge it with the platform teams, and we all of our teams win, and we all win. The whole company wins. What's the point of being here? The company wins. That's the point of being
right.
Company of 1,000 people. I don't know what the upper limit is, but now everyone's drawn borders around their teams, and they're incented differently, and they have met. Oh, you're going to steal my feature, and you're going to steal my
hierarchies and fiefdoms everywhere.
A platform team understands that adoption of internal new services like new technologies is not immediate, but instead evolves along an adoption curve. From the original underlying article, I thought it's interesting to go to the original underlying article because sometimes there are nuggets of wisdom that are not easily digestible in the book that are in the original document, which we found there are quite a few in here. So this article is on martinfowler.com. That's what I'm showing right now. All right, so I'm showing the article on the main screen. You're right there. There you are. Okay, there it is. And then what makes a platform compelling? Let's walk through these. Some of these might be a rehash from what's in the book. Platform is self-service for the overwhelming majority of use cases. That is pretty clearly defined.
There's no overhead on the platform team in order to consume the service, right?
Yep.
It's self-serving. It's available in its entirety, digestible as is.
If you think about the Streamline team, the team producing features, you might have to go to them to figure out. They might not have documentation for their API. They're the only ones using their API. So it may be a pain for you to use their API. You may only be able to use their service by SSHing into their segment of the network or something. Like it may be gated off from the network. The point here is you don't have to talk to anybody. There is a system in place to self-serve to use these features. That's the idea. That's the difference here between a platform team and everything else. Platform is composable, containing discrete services that can be used independently. I think platform does not force an inflexible way of working on the delivery team.
Inflexible way of working. It's kind of a little bit vague there, but I think what they mean is you shouldn't have to develop other things in order to use the platform. Right. It should just be make a call, right, and it's usable.
Right. I worked on a system once where you had to. It didn't give you back the API that you interacted with. It basically only gave you one table. The APIs basically loosely followed the table structure. And the table structure was very independent. Logistics companies. One driver could drive for multiple companies. So basically, you could pull the companies and you could pull the drivers, but you couldn't pull the drivers for the company or the companies for the drivers. Using the APIs, you had to go to the developers to figure out, hey, I go to the driver ID and then I get the driver's ID from the driver thing, but I have to know the driver I'm looking up. And then I go to the company thing and I have to reference the driver in the company. Anyway, it should have been built for the business operation of saying, I'm going to give you the driver and you're going to give me back the companies the driver has worked for or is currently working for, if there's a permission problem or something
Sure.
like that. Yeah, but it wasn't built that way. It was built where you had to keep calling over and over anyway.
Yeah, I've seen those before.
These are the things that streamline teams do that a platform team would say, well, how can we make this accessible to everybody?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't see it in this list, but I think it's kind of implied. Reusability of what the platform team is delivering, right? That is key.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be one and done, right?
Okay, so platform, the fourth bullet point, the platform is quick and cheap to start using with easy on-ramp, aka quick start guides, documentation, code samples. I was talking about Swagger before, but you really can use whatever you want. The point is, again, I don't need to talk to anyone. All the documentation should be self-contained. I should be able to test this out and see it working before the end of the day. I mean, that really is the point here. Other points he has in this list: platform has a rich internal user community for sharing. If all of your developers on all of your teams are using features, then internally you have a rich internal community who ends up being your stakeholders in product management. So that's if you want to be a developer advocate at that point, advocating for tools to help and speed along developers' processes and whatnot. There you go.
That's the thing today. A developer advocate.
I mean, that's code for getting lunch all day. But
Yeah.
I mean, other than that, a platform is secure and compliant by default, and a platform is up to date. Again, both things you get when proper product management is engaged in maintaining a solution, no matter what it is.
I think most of these bullets really, you can talk to it in that vein from a product lens as opposed to something else, right? Just one and done type of thing. So Bottcher says that a platform should be compelling to use. And all of those points we raised earlier are what makes a platform compelling to use.
So up until this point in the podcast, we talked about platform teams. We talked about what they are. So I lobbied for this to be a podcast, not because of anything we talked about so far. I lobbied for it to be a podcast because I have this understanding of what platform teams are. They really help to move things forward, and they really help. They're the grease.
They're the accelerator.
Between those ball bearings, they just move things along faster. They keep the friction to a low level between teams. I brought this up because there was confusion about what a platform team was. Say, hey, maybe this team just does all our features that everyone's asking for. And I said, no, that's a streamline team. And they're like, get out. But then they were like, what is a streamline team? And I said, well, just read this book, Team Topologies, by Manuel Pius and the other guy. And they're like, Brian, I'm not an executive because I read books.
That's right.
Get out of my office. We already talked about, hey, I need my new environment promoted or whatever. We already talked about confusing a DevOps team.
Or a platform team. Yeah. I mean, first of all, the confusion, right, is rampant out there. I think it's very common, honestly. If you were to poll people, you're going to find that as the most common thing. People do get this confused a lot. So DevOps was one example that we used earlier. There are others.
DevOps team is very similar to, but it could be a little bit different than an infrastructure team. A lot of people might read into an infrastructure team and say, well, that's just basically a platform team.
I think they're conflating the term infrastructure with the term platform, right? Not from a team perspective, but just the words themselves.
Yeah.
Infrastructure. You're standing up a platform. That's where I think the confusion may stem from.
Right. I will give you the other one that is commonly confused here, which is my favorite topic and the topic of a very recent podcast we did, shared services.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to keep all the DBAs over here, and I'll give them to you only when you scream loud enough. And I'm going to keep all the architects over here in the ivory tower, and I'll give them to you only when, only on the first light on the fifth day at dawn, look to the east.
Yeah, Helm's Gate is where a lot of people are just standing around getting confused with platform teams.
We also talked about, we sort of implied, but we didn't talk directly about support teams.
Yes.
We talk about DevOps as a support team, which kind of like most people deploy DevOps kind of like I think about a support team of like you write a ticket, you don't really know who's on the other side.
That's right. Or when they're going to pick it up. Right. Yeah. Create all these artificial handoffs and dependencies or whatever.
None of those are platform teams. And in fact, none of those are streamlined teams either, what we just talked about. That's just chaos. That's like when people tell me they're doing Kanban, and I'm like, what's your whip limit? And show me your flow rate? And they're like, what are you talking about? Crazy person. Get out of here.
They're not even doing hand-on.
Right.
Yeah.
This kind of confusion, like it has a lot of bad consequences.
Oh, yeah, definitely. A lot of damage can be done as a result. So let's talk about the effects of the confusion.
So first of all, if you think that you're going to have a platform team, but you don't have this product management aspect, this strong product management, I think it's harder to maintain a platform team than it is to maintain a streamlined team. That'll be my Arguing Agile challenge to throw out on the podcast. In a typical streamlined team, you have one product or maybe one feature of a larger platform or whatever. A platform meaning website, multi-function website. And I'm a product manager and I'm just servicing one feature. So my team, my streamlined team, I have goals, right? And I'm trying to do things to benefit my users. I think the platform product manager has to be way more experienced and way more, I don't know, in the weeds. Like they definitely have to be going to all my sprint reviews and looking at my roadmap every week. I think they have to be working twice as hard as I do.
They have to be like trapeze artists.
That's what I'm saying,
I think. Yeah, so the biggest difference here is a streamlined team takes their feed or input from their customers, right? Whereas for the platform team, their customers vary. They could be multiple streamlined teams, and the inputs you get from those teams may not be coherent. They may not be concise, and they may not be aligned in the same way. They could be competing in some cases. So that product manager, he's got or she's got their work cut out, right? Yeah. They have to be experienced. They have to be a ruthless prioritizer to figure out what's needed when, by whom, what's the impact of shuffling the schedule in a certain way. It requires very delicate sort of dancing on hot coals, basically, right? So, yeah, I agree with that. I think they've got their work cut out. They have to really do a good job, or they end up like most of these teams, which is they do a poor job at pretty much most things, right? And muddle through, right?
I mean, by default, even in the team topologies, hopefully you'll read it, even in the team topologies definition, the concept of even having a platform team exists is they're supposed to reduce cognitive load for the rest of the. But I want to challenge that. Do they reduce cognitive load, or do they just take cognitive load onto the platform team product manager team?
Well, they transfer cognitive load from streamlined team to themselves. So in a way, they reduce cognitive load on the streamlined team, right? Because they're taking it away from them. All of that, if it's done well, if it's done in the right way. Yeah. If it's not, I feel like the balance goes the other way, and they increase cognitive load on the streamlined team, which is the worst thing they should be doing. Yeah. And they themselves either don't really have any notion of that. They just move to another team, they move to serve another streamlined team, or they increase cognitive load on themselves too, right? Yeah. Which is the worst. That's like the lose-lose situation. Yeah. I have seen that in practice, especially in a certain scaled framework where they talk about this stuff and people misinterpret it, and then they misapply it. They install the concept, don't really get it.
If you want to go there now, I'm 100% willing to go there now. I mean, the main thing that I see people sabotaging themselves with platform team concepts is, rather than them being an independent team that delivers reusable features for all the streamlined teams, they become this bottleneck dependency, assessing dependencies to all the streamlined teams. Like, oh, the platform team is going to like single sign-on or role-based access, for example. Oh, this team is going to do role-based access, and we're going to do it for your application, but we're going to do it staged and maybe rolled out where your application is going to be one of the last to get rolled into role-based access, and we have to do whatever before we do your app. So now you have a dependency on us. So you can't do any features that you want to do that depend on role-based access until we've done whatever.
That is very, very true. They become a predecessor team.
If you're waiting on the platform team to knock out certain things and you're dependent on them to create features, you really have to take a step back and really think for a second, thinking critically, by the way. Future podcasts, I haven't put it in the list yet. But when you introduce dependencies and your platform team starts producing dependencies, at that point, you're like, I'm out. Yeah. That's not a platform team at that point.
Clearly, I agree 100%. Well, if that is happening, you're already on the slippery slope down.
So another one that we are talking about is the lack of a dedicated platform team, dedicated to enabling all the teams, platform team. And then you say, well, we have a platform, but all the streamlined teams kind of control all the teams. I won't even use terminology from the team topologies book. In the event where you don't have a proper and dedicated platform team and all your streamlined teams are trying to like throw features up into the cloud to be available, this ends up in a lack of cohesion and chaos.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. To the detriment of everybody.
I think so. And like what you end up getting out of this one of, we're all trying to share a platform. We can all share a platform team. You'll end up actually getting a lack of agility. You'll end up with a lack of business agility because all those features that everyone starts to depend on, developed by different teams, when they need to be enhanced or extended or whatever, maintained,
Yeah.
you have to go back to that team.
Which may not be around at that point. Yeah. Or in the same form. They may not have that particular element in their prioritization list, right? It's like, well, yeah, you've come to us to enhance this, but we're working on something more important right now.
The mobile library of APIs I was talking about before that we were creating, it did work like this. So you went to the V1 APIs that were designed by these people, right? That had these limitations. But if you wanted to extend the functionality, we couldn't decommission the V1 APIs for a variety of reasons, some of which there were some legacy clients on it that couldn't work on different technologies. Anyway, we ended up basically rewriting and creating a V2 API that did everything the same, all the same business functionality the V1 API did. But we could maintain it because we wrote it. We became our own platform team, writing a successor technology to the old functionality that was still there in production that people could still use, and it couldn't be removed. Yeah, it was such a nightmare.
So that you're describing a team. What if you have multiple teams doing that in parallel?
That's why it was. It was multiple teams that put that up. Originally, that's how we got here to this nightmare situation where now you're developers, because remember, we're DevOps. Because remember, we fired all of our the network engineers and all those people that were that would help with the blue screens of death and all that kind of stuff at orchestration at scale. We got rid of them because our cloud provider told us, we'll take care of it for you, bro. Yeah. So, and then since DevOps is about making our developers do it all and buying our yachts and save the money.
Right. Wow.
That's how we got here. Speaking of suboptimal resource allocation, let's talk about resources that should be dedicated to streamline work might get diverted to platform work, slowing down product development.
We just talked about that in your example, right?
We sure did.
Of the mobile situation. So during the time when your streamline team was taking on platform work, they were not servicing the customer the way they should have.
No, you were right with the first statement. When they were doing that work, they were not thinking of the customer at all.
At all.
Exactly right.
With the passage of time, you're now getting further and further away.
So Brian, the business leader, the person trying to make a profit for the business so we don't have to shut all the lights off and chain the doors on the data center and fire all the employees. Like I the person feeling the pressure of keeping the business running day to day. I need the streamlined teams focused on producing customer value for those customers that stream services. And the platform team can help with the back of the house stuff. Let the platform team do platform team stuff.
Right.
That's why we got a product manager. That's why we got developers. They're focused on internal customers. That's what their roadmap comes from and all that kind of stuff. But I can't take my foot off the pedal for the external paying external customers.
They're the ones keeping the lights on and getting everybody paid. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And it's a delicate balance. Sometimes streamlined teams may feel like it's quicker for them to just do it, right? Than to have to depend on a platform team to do it. But then that begets the behavior. You keep doing that, you do more of it, and you get further away from the customer.
In the world where what we talked about earlier on the podcast, we talked about, well, what happens if I develop a feature on a streamlined team in the platform and we demo it? We go through a sprint review, right? And the product manager for the platform team is there and says, hey, that's a great feature. Why don't we make that available to everyone? Why don't we take that API as is and we just promote it and make it available up on the platform and we push it out to everyone? And you're like, okay, I don't have a problem with that.
That should be welcome. If they say, hey, listen, you share this out. Yeah, sure. Let's know how I can help.
Again, the team topologies has more than just the types of teams in it. It has the collaboration modes between teams. One of which is actual collaborating team to team. Like we're going to sit together and figure out how to do this collaborating. It doesn't happen all the time. It's not 100% of the time. But a few members of your team might bounce into my planning and help plan with us. So in the situation where you come to my review and you're like, hey, this API is cool, why don't your team come to my next planning session, come to my next refinement, whatever the system I'm using is, and we'd like to talk about how we could roll this feature up into the platform. Like, why don't you collaborate with us, the platform team, to figure out how to make your new service or your new offering that's from the Streamline team and promote it into a platform feature.
It's a deliberate communication channel, right? So you set that up as a formal thing, right? Come to our reviews, come to our planning sessions, refinements, whatever it is, as opposed to somebody else automatically just saying, well, that might be a good idea. Because they're not going to get a whole lot of credibility there because everybody else is already running in a certain direction.
Well, I mean, here's the three modes right here. Is collaboration, X as a service, and facilitation. I'm not talking about facilitating an interaction because I don't need other people to do something for me, and I'm not talking about as a service. As a service would be we the platform team are just going to put a wrapper around your API, and we're just going to call that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about collaboration. It's like, hey, your API is great. We the platform team are going to take it and we're going to make it available to everybody.
And they may have to dress it up a little before they do that.
They likely
right?
will
Which they own.
I mean, we talked about it. We talked about the platform being reliable and having easy documentation. So yes, the platform team probably will need to sit down, go through your API, make sure the documentation works. They know their audience. So they probably need the documentation to be at a certain spec. Maybe the API doesn't respond to certain. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's all of that stuff that they can consider for the wider audience,
let
right?
the team that does that on a regular basis, let them deal with how to ship it to a wider audience.
It should be built in.
So there's a few other lower ranking things that got pushed down to the bottom of my list. Talk about scalability is one of them. The platform team obviously should have like scalability, performance, that kind of stuff should be like a cost of doing business to this type of team. It shouldn't be extra for them to deal with it. A lot of times I've been on teams where like, performance and scalability, we have to do specific tests for them. And sometimes those tests get cut especially when we're doing MVP, we don't even talk about them. Like, hey, we're in MVP mode. Why bother what happens when 20,000 concurrent users are using the mobile app at the same time? Like, we don't even bother with that because we're just trying to get something off the ground or through product market fit. But the platform team probably will just handle this as normal cost of doing business.
They should do it that way, because otherwise, what's going to happen is you'll have a cost of delay, right? When you try and scale up and it doesn't stand up right and you kind of shore it up, they're still going to get involved at that point. So they should be looking at it from that perspective. I think this whole lens of looking at it saying it is built for a customer or a purpose, but we're a platform team. We need to make sure it services everybody. Yeah. What does that mean? What else do we have to do to it so that it can be used, consumed, standalone as is by everybody? That's the dressing up, quote unquote, that I was talking about. They are experts at it. They should do that.
The last thing that was on the list was missed opportunities for optimization. The idea that like if your streamlined teams are just kind of doing this and dealing with it, hey, we're all kind of contributing to this platform nebulously and there's no one person's job to figure out what works, whatever. What are they not doing in the time when they're trying to, quote, figure it out internally?
There is that. And there's also the other side of it, which is you're really building a Frankenmonster because everybody's doing it their way as opposed to doing it a standard way that a platform team would do.
So we talked about platform teams. I feel we've covered a lot of ground very quickly in this podcast about platform teams, but the book does say, it gives a case study or two in the book. It's very good. Around page 92 is when it starts. But it does talk about a good platform team being, quote, just big enough.
Just big enough.
Because we didn't talk anything about how large this platform team is, how many platform teams is needed. The Team Topologies book, there it is again. It does give some numbers about ratios.
Very useful.
Streamline teams.
That. Yeah, that's very useful.
So I encourage you to look through the book. It's a good conversation starter, or if you haven't thought about this, it's a good thought-provoking piece of material for you. But the point of the podcast here was, hey, this platform team can be reducing cognitive load from all of the teams that contribute to it, or that it helps if done well, and also if done as a product, as a normal product team. Because this is not some back of the house IT type of thing. This is not some like engineering only type of thing that like your engineering manager does in their spare time or whatever. This is a full product management type of thing. Just because they're servicing internal users doesn't mean they're any less important.
I'd argue the opposite, right? Because they're really the linchpin. I mean, they're very important, I'd say. So yeah, absolutely. If you've worked on platform teams, we'd like to hear from you. Let us know.
That's me. You're hearing from me right now. I worked on a platform team. Yeah.
I'd like to hear from all the Brians.
No.
If you have any other topics you'd like to talk about, let us know. And subscribe and like.
If you like this podcast, consider sharing it with someone who you think might like it as well.